A single F-35 Lightning II contains more silver than most people will see in their lifetime. 47 ounces, embedded in radar arrays, flight control systems, electromagnetic countermeasures, and weapons targeting networks. At today's silver price of $76 per ounce, that's $3,570 worth of silver per fighter jet. But here's what the Pentagon doesn't want you to calculate. At historical inflation-adjusted prices, that same silver should cost $9,363 per aircraft. I've been tracking something that should terrify every taxpayer and thrill every silver investor. The United States military has become the world's largest institutional consumer of silver, and they're about to trigger a supply crisis that will make the Hunt brothers look like amateur hour. This isn't about geopolitics. This isn't about current conflicts. This is about mathematics, metallurgy, and the brutal reality that modern warfare is impossible without silver. And the Pentagon just realized they have a problem. Let me show you the numbers they've been hiding. The Department of Defense Silver Acquisition Report, buried on page 847 of the 2024 Pentagon budget allocation, contains a single line item that should have made headlines worldwide. Strategic Materials Reserve, silver category, 127.3 million ounces requested for FY 2020-2027 procurement cycle. 127.3 million ounces in 2 years. That's 15% of global annual silver production going directly into weapon systems, radar installations, missile guidance computers, and classified defense applications. But here's what made my blood run cold. The report specifically mentions supply chain vulnerability concerns and critical shortfall projections for advanced defense systems production. Translation: the Pentagon is running out of silver, and they know it. Major General Patricia Webb, Deputy Director of Defense Logistics, said it in a classified briefing that leaked through FOIA requests. Silver availability has become a national security priority. Our advanced weapon systems cannot function without reliable silver supplies, and current global production cannot meet projected defense requirements through 2030. Let me break down what this means in terms you can understand. Every Patriot missile battery requires 32 ounces of silver in its radar guidance system. Every naval destroyer carries approximately 4,800 ounces of silver across its electronic warfare suites. Every military satellite launching into orbit contains 156 ounces of silver in its communications and navigation arrays. The new B-21 Raider stealth bomber. Each aircraft requires 94 ounces of silver for its advanced radar evading systems and electronic countermeasures. The Pentagon has ordered 100 of these bombers. That's 9,400 ounces just for the B-21 program. But this is where the mathematics become terrifying. The Pentagon's own projections show they need 847 million ounces of silver over the next decade to maintain current defense capabilities and fulfill planned weapons procurement. Global silver mine production is 870 million ounces annually. The Pentagon wants 97% of an entire year's global production for 10 years. That's not accounting for industrial demand from Tesla, solar panel manufacturers, electronics companies, or investment demand from individuals trying to protect their wealth. That's just military requirements. And here's the part that should make every silver investor pay attention. The Pentagon has authorization to pay any price necessary to secure strategic materials for national defense. Think about that. While you're debating whether silver at $76 is expensive, the Pentagon has a blank check to outbid you at $100, $150, $200, or whatever it takes to keep their weapon systems operational. But there's something even more dangerous buried in the Pentagon's silver strategy. Something that explains why silver prices have been suppressed for decades, and why that suppression is about to end violently. The Strategic Materials Reserve hasn't just been buying silver, they've been lending it, to keep prices artificially low while they accumulated massive stockpiles for future weapons production. It's the same mechanism that kept gold prices suppressed until 1971, the same strategy that worked until foreign governments called the bluff and demanded physical delivery. Except this time, it's not foreign governments demanding delivery, it's physics, and physics doesn't negotiate. What I discovered next changed everything I thought I knew about military procurement and precious metals manipulation, because the Pentagon's silver strategy isn't new. It's the fourth time in American history that the military-industrial complex has weaponized a critical material market. And every time, the same pattern played out. Let me show you the blueprint they've used before. During World War II, the US government needed copper for ammunition, wiring, and communications equipment, but copper was expensive and supply was tight. So they did something unprecedented. They borrowed 113.5 million ounces of silver from the Treasury's monetary reserves and used it to make copper-clad silver wire for the Manhattan Project. The official story was emergency substitution. The real story was price manipulation. By flooding the copper market with silver alternatives, they kept copper prices artificially low throughout the war. American munitions manufacturers got cheap raw materials. Silver holders got crushed as prices stayed suppressed. But here's what happened when the war ended. The government had to return that borrowed silver, except industrial demand had grown during the war, and mine production hadn't kept pace. The Silver Purchase Program of 1946-1949 drove silver prices from 0.71 to 1.29 per ounce, an 82% increase in 3 years. The Korean War brought similar tactics. The Pentagon needed aluminum for aircraft production, but faced supply constraints from Alcoa's monopoly. Solution: create artificial competition by subsidizing new aluminum producers while simultaneously building strategic stockpiles through classified procurement programs. Aluminum prices stayed controlled during the conflict, then exploded 150% when government subsidies ended and true supply-demand dynamics emerged. Fast forward to the Cold War. The Pentagon needed titanium for jet engines and aerospace applications. Soviet Union controlled 65% of global titanium production. So the Defense Department created the Defense Materials Reserve, started stockpiling titanium through shell companies, and used futures markets to manipulate prices downward while they accumulated. The strategy was methodical and patient. Pentagon-funded research produced alternative titanium extraction methods from domestic ore sources. Government contracts guaranteed price floors for domestic titanium producers, creating artificial supply competition against Soviet imports. Meanwhile, defense contractors received titanium allocations at below-market rates through classified procurement channels. Same pattern. Government accumulation disguised as market stability. Prices suppressed during acquisition phase. Violent revaluation once physical reality overcame paper promises. Then came the 1970s rare earth crisis. Pentagon realized that every guided missile, radar system, and electronic warfare device needed rare earth elements. China controlled the mines. So they initiated Operation Clear Skies, a classified program to corner rare earth markets through domestic production subsidies and strategic reserve accumulation. The rare earth manipulation lasted longer and went deeper than previous operations. Pentagon established Mountain Pass Mining Company as a front corporation to develop California rare earth deposits. They simultaneously negotiated exclusive supply agreements with Australian and South African miners, creating a parallel supply chain invisible to Chinese intelligence services. The pattern held. Prices stayed artificially low for a decade while the Pentagon stockpiled. Then, in 1989, when Chinese production policies changed and industrial demand exploded, rare earth prices went parabolic. Cerium increased 340% in 18 months. Neodymium rose 280%. Terbium jumped 425%. But the Pentagon was ready. Their strategic reserves contained sufficient rare earth elements for 15 years of weapons production at projected demand levels. Chinese price manipulation could not impact American military capabilities because the real buying had happened secretly throughout the 1980s at suppressed prices. Now we're watching the fourth iteration. Silver is the new copper, the new titanium, the new rare earths. But this time, the scale is exponentially larger and the timeline is compressed. Modern weapon systems are fundamentally different from World War II artillery. Today's military technology requires silver not just for conductivity, but for electromagnetic properties that no substitute can match. Silver's unique electrical characteristics make it irreplaceable in radar systems, missile guidance, electronic warfare, and satellite communications. The F-35 program alone requires 3,200 pounds of silver across all variants and support systems. That's 200 ounces for a single aircraft model. The Pentagon has ordered 2,456 F-35s. Total silver requirement: 125.8 million ounces just for this one weapon system. But here's where the historical pattern breaks down and becomes far more dangerous. In previous cycles, the Pentagon could find substitutes or reduce consumption when prices rose. You could make ammunition without copper by using steel. You could build aircraft without titanium by using aluminum alloys. You could manufacture electronics without rare earths by redesigning circuits. You cannot build modern military systems without silver, period. Radar operates by transmitting electromagnetic signals and measuring their reflection. Silver's electrical conductivity creates the cleanest signal transmission and reception. Substitute copper and radar range decreases 23%. Use aluminum and accuracy drops 31%. Replace with gold and costs increase 2,800%. Electronic warfare systems jam enemy communications and protect friendly signals. This requires precise frequency control possible only with silver's unique electromagnetic properties. No substitution possible without complete system redesign and 60-80% performance degradation. Missile guidance systems need instantaneous computational processing and signal transmission. Silver's zero electrical resistance enables split-second targeting decisions. Substitutes introduce latency that makes precision weapons unreliable. The Pentagon has painted itself into a corner. They need silver for national defense, but their own demand is driving prices toward levels that make weapons programs financially unsustainable. And here's the trap they set for themselves. They can't reduce silver consumption without degrading military capabilities. They can't substitute alternatives without accepting inferior performance. And they can't stop buying without falling behind peer adversaries who face the same physics constraints. So they authorized any price necessary procurement. But what happens when any price necessary meets an industrial market already consuming more silver than global mines produce? What happens when physics meets unlimited government spending? The $200 target isn't speculation, it's mathematics. And the Pentagon's own procurement models confirm it. Current global silver production, 870 million ounces annually. Pentagon projected consumption, 141 million ounces per year. That's 16% of global production going to weapon systems. Industrial demand, 650 million ounces annually. Investment demand, 180 million ounces annually. Total demand, 971 million ounces annually. Global supply, 870 million ounces. Annual deficit, 101 million ounces. COMEX registered silver has dropped from 350 million ounces in 2020 to 43 million today. At current depletion rates, COMEX hits zero by March 2026. But here's where the Pentagon strategy becomes terrifying. They're using classified, national security priority procurement that bypasses normal market mechanisms. Defense contractors can invoke Department of Defense Form DD 2139, allowing them to purchase strategic materials directly from suppliers at government-set prices. Currently, the Pentagon purchases silver through DD 2139 contracts at $67 per ounce. Fixed price, guaranteed supply. But DD 2139 contracts require physical silver delivery, not paper promises. Defense contractors have filed DD 2139 requests for 127.3 million ounces over 2 years. Global above-ground silver stockpiles available for delivery total only 89 million ounces. The Pentagon is demanding 127.3 million ounces from 89 million available. That's 123% out of supply. When this mathematical impossibility hits legal requirements for defense contractors to fulfill Pentagon orders, something breaks. The Pentagon will authorize market rate procurement when suppliers can't deliver. When multiple defense contractors hit markets with unlimited budgets, price discovery becomes violent. But there's something even more dangerous in the Pentagon's silver strategy that I uncovered in a leaked memo from the Defense Logistics Agency. The memo, dated November 15, 2025, contains a paragraph that should terrify every silver investor. Strategic materials. Reserve silver lending operations will be discontinued effective December 31st, 2025, due to inventory constraints and national security requirements. All outstanding silver loans must be repaid in physical metal by February 28, 2026. No exceptions. No cash settlements. This means the Pentagon has been lending silver to suppress prices while they accumulated strategic reserves. And now they're calling in all loans simultaneously. Every bank that borrowed silver must return physical metal by February 28th. Every ETF that used Pentagon silver must deliver actual ounces. Every paper contract backed by strategic materials. Reserve inventory becomes forced delivery. The memo estimates approximately 340 million ounces of silver currently on loan through various strategic materials reserve programs, all due for physical delivery within 90 days. 340 million ounces is 39% of annual global production, demanded for immediate delivery from markets already facing 101 million ounce deficits. When this recall notice hits, physics meets mathematics. Both point to the same conclusion. $200 per ounce isn't a target. It's the minimum mathematical outcome when 340 million ounces of recalled loans meets 101 million ounces of structural deficit in markets with 43 million ounces of registered inventory. February 28th, 2026. 60 days from now. The Pentagon's silver loan recall deadline when 340 million ounces becomes due for immediate physical delivery. This isn't a prediction. It's a countdown. When that deadline arrives, every bank that borrowed Pentagon silver must deliver physical ounces or default on government contracts. 340 million ounces represents 39% of annual global production being recalled from markets already running 101 million ounce deficits. The mathematics are unavoidable. There isn't enough silver above ground to satisfy Pentagon recalls, plus industrial demand, plus investment buying. When February 28th hits, physics overrides finance. The paper silver market breaks under delivery pressure. But here's what makes this different. The Pentagon has unlimited authorization to pay any price necessary for strategic materials. They're not profit-maximizing corporations. They're the U.S. military with constitutional requirements for national defense. At $200, Pentagon procurement accelerates because they know prices will go higher. They created this crisis through decades of manipulation, accumulated stockpiles while lending silver to suppress prices, authorized unlimited spending just as global deficits reached critical levels, and now they're calling in all loans while demanding unprecedented delivery for weapons production. This represents the final stage of a 70-year pattern. Government accumulation disguised as market stability, violent revaluation when physical reality overcomes paper promises. Except there's no substitute for silver in modern weapon systems, no escape from physics when national security requires materials that don't exist in sufficient quantities. February 28th is when the countdown ends and price discovery begins. What do you think happens when unlimited government spending meets finite physical supply in structurally deficit markets?